Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's webinar from Annika Digital. It's myself, Anne Stanley. I'm the CEO and founder of Annika, and I've got Matt with me this morning. Good morning, Matt.
Morning, Anne. How are we?
We're very well, thank you. And
Good.
You're based up in Sheffield, aren't you, today?
Absolutely, yeah. So I joined Annika over a year ago now. It's been a whole year, and I'm now a paid media strategist. And obviously, I've joined in today to help talk the guys through our search marketing webinar. It's quite an exciting one, quite a good beginner session, isn't it?
Yeah, we were going to do it as a joint session, but what we've done is I'm going to present and Matt's going to answer all the questions. So hopefully, please type away and Matt will help explain anything. I'll try not to slip into too much lingo because we're expecting people to be relatively new. So that brings us on to the poll. So do you know how to start the poll, Matt? Do you want to kick it off?
There we go. So our poll today, if everyone can answer for us, is what would you rate your current digital marketing skill level as? So A, a complete beginner, I know basically nothing. B, some understanding, but I'm still a beginner. And then C, intermediate, my knowledge covers some channels, but not all. And then D, advanced, I know one channel expertly, but need to develop the others. And then E is advanced. I would say I know a lot about a number of channels.
Well, I said this morning, if they know loads, they probably won't want to be here. But or they should be
we do actually have 3 advanced. I would say I know a lot about a number of channels so far. Although we do have 47% of people saying intermediate, my knowledge covers some channels, and then we've got 33% some understanding, I'm still a beginner. So we've got a good mix. We've got a good mix of people this morning.
Excellent. I've just seen Damani, who is in Manchester now. She used to work at one of our clients. So there's lots of familiar names, quite a lot from we're currently running a digital skills bootcamp for Norfolk and Suffolk, which is why we've got quite a few people from the East Coast joining in today. So another little bit of advice for you. The slides look really small at the moment with both myself and Matt on the screen. So if you look above the slides in the top right corner, there's a button called full. If you want to press that, then you should be able to see the slides in their full. Matt, I think, is going to turn his camera off for now, but he'll come in.
Yep, absolutely. But I'm still here, guys. Any questions, just pop them in the chat and I can answer them for you.
Excellent. Okay. Well, let's get going then. So I can't see the chat now. I'm just going to focus on slides. So if you've got any questions, then Matt will answer them. So this presentation is an introduction to search marketing. Annika Digital actually started off as a search marketing agency, but my background was also in search. And I would say that my favorite part of digital marketing is Google Ads, and more recently, other types of paid advertising. But a little bit about myself. So I've actually been in digital marketing for 20 years. I started back in 2002 when I was working for my first agency job, where I was actually doing digital marketing. I founded Annika 15 years ago, which is why you've got our logo with the 15th birthday symbol all over it. But last year I changed from MD to founder and CEO. So my role is mainly consulting and marketing and training. And Darren Wynn, who's one of the other directors, focuses in on the day-to-day running. I've done a lot of speaking over my time. These are some of the examples. And I also created the A10 marketing framework, which you can download off the site. I think the pop-up will still come up, or if you just do a search on the A10 marketing framework. Now, Annika there's actually just under 30 of us, and we've got 45 clients. And we tend to specialize in sort of the non-sexy industries, which includes a lot of science and technology and construction, etc. But we also do a lot of stuff with destination marketing and local enterprises. And this is because we do a lot of training as well. But we've got some great clients. Some of these names you'll recognize. Uber for Business, Automation Anywhere is a massive US company. Palex is logistics. Experian is the credit guys. And Charles Bentley is our biggest e-commerce client, and they're up in Loughborough, and they manufacture products and they do home and garden. So it's a big variety. So this is just a small sample of the 45 clients that we work with. So let's just go in and have a look at digital marketing. So first of all, what I thought we would do is we would explore John Lewis. So I've chosen John Lewis, and this is, I've got some slides from November, and then I've got what it looks like today as well. So, and the reason I've kept it in was in November, you've got actually a little bit more variety in the search results when you go and search for John Lewis in Google. So what we can see is we've got the Google web, the John Lewis website up here. We've got the Twitter feed with a load of posts from John Lewis under here. We've got top stories, and we've got what we call the knowledge panel or the brand panel, which is being brought in from Wikipedia. We've also got some of their social media profiles. And then we've also got what we call the local panel, which actually goes down a long way, which in this case is pointing to, because I'm based in Leicester, is pointing to the Leicester shop. But depending on wherever you are in the country, you will see a local listing, and that will vary depending on where you physically are. Now, if we have a look at the way that this is split up, a lot of these profiles, if you want to call these presences or assets of John Lewis, a lot of them are what we would call owned assets or owned media. And what that means is that they actually control the content. So obviously John Lewis controls the content of their website. And in this case, they're big enough brand that they've got a Wikipedia page. And although they don't truly control Wikipedia, they can go in and edit it and make sure it's technically accurate. And they also control their Google profile page as well. This has changed names quite a lot recently, so you will hear it called different things. So at the moment, it's called business profile. But this stuff here, this is what we call the earned media. And this is the stuff that they've not got any control over at all. Now, obviously, they can put posts in Twitter. So some of these will be from John Lewis, but you can't really control what everybody else is saying about you. And similarly with any PR or any stories in the local press or the national press, in some cases, they may have released press releases to get those stories. But the journalist has got the ability to write what they like. And if somebody's running a story or there's been something that's gone viral, particularly around their release of their Christmas video, then they may not have any control over what's being said at all. So this is a really good starting point because John Lewis is getting this right, but there's lots of stuff that you could be doing in a similar way. And it also illustrates the point while the stuff that's in Twitter doesn't directly affect their rankings, you know, it doesn't directly affect the fact that John Lewis is number one, which if you are trying to look for your brand, you'd expect as well. It does appear in the search results, and it can influence what people think about or what people are saying about you. And quite often you get reviews in here. And when you go and look further into the local listings, you'll see that there's reviews there. You've got review stars as well. So if you've got poor reviews or you've got poor customer service, then that's definitely something that can adversely impact the way that people see you. And I do recommend you do this, actually search on your brand and understand, because sometimes you see other people actually having ads against your brand as well. Now, if we go and look at what's happening now, it is quite different. That's why I kept the old one in. These bits on the right and the sort of the owned part is pretty much the same, but this section is completely different. So what you can see here is they've got people also asked. So these are a load of questions, and that will fill with organic content, which may or may not come from John Lewis. Now, the Twitter pipeline is here, but actually it's not got the images. It's only got the text, which means that it's not as impactful. And then the next organic result, which I can't actually see who that is, John Lewis Partnership, which is their sort of more their corporate brand rather than their shop. you've got that there, and you've got the image extension, which has been grabbed from the site. So you can see it looks really different. And this is really illustrates the fact that with the search engine results, they're not static, they're changing all the time. And they're also geo-targeted. So again, I'm getting the Leicester result here. But if you did this search somewhere else, so if Matt did the same thing and he was in Sheffield, he'd get a completely different looking page than I would.
Yeah, the Waitrose and John Lewis got taken off the high street in Sheffield, so it might even be a tricky find for me for local results. But just a fun fact as well, if you weren't aware, Waitrose is part of the John Lewis partnership as well. I worked there for about 3 years. It was my very first job.
Do you know what? I worked in John Lewis as a waitress, which was one of my first jobs. I think everybody's worked in John Lewis at some point.
It's a classy kind of person, and that.
So this is the John Lewis homepage as it stands at the moment. And this is actually a screen grab because this is now a looping video. It's quite short. It goes round in about 4 or 5 different shots. But I grabbed this because I thought this is quite a nice image. And you can see that you've got the key things that they want to get across to you right at the top, because what's going to happen is that people will either click off or go and look at a menu pretty quickly. So they want to get certain messages in as soon as possible. And also they're what we call above the fold, because you don't have to scroll down. So they're trying to get those messages to you before you do anything else. If we then go to the next slide, this is what it looked like back in November when they had a bit of a sale going on. And so you can see that they completely changed the look and feel. And so this is part of what we would call a promotional campaign. And what most e-commerce websites do is they have what we call always on marketing, say their Google ads, which are always, attracting traffic to say their home and garden or the clothing section. But they also have campaigns that are seasonal and relate to what they're trying to sell at that particular week or that particular month. So at this point, they've got some seasonal sales, and you've got some stuff around lighting, for example, and fashion that they were trying to give a 30% sale on. Now, if we then go down to, I'm going now to the right-hand side. So the knowledge panel was this is actually today. So this is, or this yesterday rather. So this is what it looks like today. And actually, interestingly, their Instagram link didn't work, which is a little bit shocking. So it might be worth tweeting to John Lewis that their Instagram link doesn't work on Google. And you can see that you've got some other brands here. But this data is scraped from Wikipedia. And one of the things that you need to be aware of is Google is trying to keep you, all the platforms are doing this. Facebook's been doing this for years. They're trying to keep you on Google. So they're trying to provide all the information that you need without you having to click through to the John Lewis site. Or if you were searching for, what's the weather, what's the temperature like or the weather like today, Google will provide the data there and then, which means that you don't click through anywhere else. So the interesting thing that I'm sort of beginning to show you, that even if you're the first result on the left-hand side, that's the organic result or the free result, you still might not get any traffic because Google might provide the answer, or somebody might click on an ad and they never ever get to your site. So you have to be really careful in relying on only having one type of result, because in a lot of cases, that result might not be found. Now, what I've done here is I've grabbed the whole, which is why it's so small, the whole of the local section, and that's got a load of information. It's got the times, it's got reviews, and it's got information that the company has posted as well. Now, you have to scroll down quite a long way to see all that information. But the Google business profile is like having a mini website, and most people do not use it properly. And it is what has the biggest influence on you appearing in the map results, which I'll show you in a minute. So making sure that you've claimed and you have a fully functional, fully edited Google business profile, it's probably an area that you should invest a lot of time and effort. Now, the nice thing is that if you do a search for your brand and you click on your business profile, you can actually edit from the search results. And if you've got an email address with the same domain as the website that you're trying to edit, it will allow you to edit it. Now, if I click on this link here where the map is, it then opens the full map, and I then get the Google local page, which is the business page, and I can see a little bit more information, and then I've got where the map is. Now, you've got to remember, when people are on their mobile, a lot of time they will be looking just for the location or the telephone number. So when you do this in mobile, you'll notice you get a lot more information and you get the links to call directly. And so what we find in mobile, and you'll see the data in a minute, that when people actually search on their mobile, they behave very differently from when they search on their desktop. This is the Facebook page, and you can see a lot of the imagery is quite similar to the because I haven't shown you all the imagery from the video. Some of that imagery is the same. The branding is the same. And then if I go to Instagram, you see you've got the same cat. The branding is all the same again. And then you go to Twitter, and again, you've got the same imagery. So you get this consistency that wherever you see John Lewis at the moment, all the images, everything will look the same. And that's really important, because when you go flip from one place to another, it needs to be instantly recognizable, and it all needs to be on brand. So that consistency is really important when you're trying to get your message across lots of different places. And then what I've done is I flipped back to Google now, and this is what it was like in November. So you can see you've got all these Twitter stories. They've got a cat again there. And you've got top stories, which is other media. And then what you can do in Google is you can, in the same way that you can look at all, and you can look at images, and you can look at shopping, you can go and look at news. And this is a really good place to hear what people and the media are saying about you. And you'll notice here there's quite a lot about the business. Now, if you look at that today, so you can see, first of all, the Twitter looks really different. This looks more like it's controlled press releases. So John Lewis shoppers are loving comfortable and expensive looking boots. I've had a lot of compliments. John Lewis shoppers praise versatile £69 jacket. John Lewis and DFS warn shoppers are spending less. So this stuff is definitely fed and it's controlled PR, which is then being picked up in the news. So you can influence this as well, which is why PR is often an important part of your search marketing strategy and getting visibility in the search engines. And the other reason is that there'll be links on these press releases from all these different, this is the BBC, this is Liverpool Echo, and all of these will have links back to product pages, which also helps in your SEO, because SEO involves building links, which we'll come on to in a minute. And so PR is a big part of your SEO strategy as well. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more generally, and I'm going to look a little bit about marketing channels in general. And I want you to, this is really aimed at the beginners, and I just like to use this as a way of introducing and making sure everybody's aware of the language that we use in digital marketing. So first of all, up here, we've got the new and potential customers. Then you've got your brand website. And the first thing I want to point out, which a lot of people don't realize, is that of 100 people coming to your website, only on average between 1% and 5% of them will actually result in either a lead, which is an inquiry form, or a phone call, or an actual sale if it's an e-commerce website. So the first thing you need to understand is that you need to get a lot of people to your website before you actually get any what we call conversions or actions. Then we've got the three main types of traffic that we get, the ways that visitors can come to your website. So we often use traffic and visitors interchangeably. And I realize a lot of new people have absolutely no idea what we mean by traffic. but actually it's visitors or traffic to your website. In the same way we say a shop has footfall or traffic to a store. So the first is the search engines. This is most important. Of course, some people will know who your site is and they'll actually type johnlewis.com directly in, and we call that direct traffic. But these are the other methods when people don't know who you are. So they're searching, they're looking for a certain key phrase, a product or service, and they find you in the search engines. And that's probably the most important. Then we've got social media. Now, people think social media is much more important at driving traffic than it actually is. Now, this is because most people, when they're in social media, want to stay in social media and they don't really want to leave and come over to your website. So the people that do tend to leave, it's because they've seen an ad and that ad is specifically designed to try and get you over to the website. And then the final one is what we call the sort of others: websites, media sites, display, blog sites. And this is all like a catch-all, which gets people from, over to your website. And you could even include email within that as well. Now, just to understand the terminology then, we talk about this as your target audience. These are the people you want to get to your site. And of course, it won't be everybody. It's usually a small segment or a small fraction of them. We then talk about the digital marketing channels. And then what happens is that they can then convert. We talk about on-site conversions. Now, of course, there's other ways that they can buy from you. They could visit a store, that you could have a trade desk, or they could pick up the phone, or they could go to Amazon or eBay or another marketplace. So not all sales will happen on site, but most of the work that we work on, we're looking at these channels to get sales on their website. And that's our sweet spot. That's what Annika focuses on a lot. Now, the other thing that you need to be aware of is that these channels, I've just flicked straight through, can be divided into different types. So we've got paid media, owned media, earned media, and technical media. Now, I've already sort of started to introduce these concepts. So paid media is all your advertising. Owned media is the stuff that you own and control yourself. Earned media is things like PR and social, which is where other people are talking about you. And actually, that's the most difficult part to control. And then we've added into the mix what we call technical media. And this is things like voice search, but it also includes all the stuff that we do behind the scenes, such as analytics and tracking, etc., to make sure we understand what's working in the other types. So I'll quickly bring some of these up. And what we're going to focus on today is paid search, which is the paid advertising that happens in search engines. But you can see there's lots of other types of paid advertising, and we're not going to worry too much about those today. In a similar vein, we're going to mainly be talking about search engine optimization, or SEO, and content marketing. So this is where you get your website listed in the search engines and you do a search engine optimization project to try and improve the ranking and all the positioning of the work that you're doing. And content marketing is the content that you create on your website, and you can also put that on third-party websites as well. And content marketing also could include email, to be honest. But we're not going to talk too much about social and email marketing today. Earned media, we're not really talking about that at all, although I have mentioned PR. And you also need to be aware that when we're doing search engine optimization, we are trying to get links, and we often use PR as a method to do that. And then when we talk about technical media, here's some of these new types of media like voice search and chatbots, AI and machine learning. But we also are interested in things like the tagging and analytics, and CRO stands for conversion rate optimization. Finally, in addition to looking at these different ways of people visiting your site, from whether it's paid, owned, earned, and poet, we also need to understand where they are in what we call the sales funnel. So I put it as a little diagram on the right, but I'll just dive into that in a little bit more detail. So the way that we look at the sales funnel is really the status or the state of mind of the visitor when they're doing a search, or where they're looking for a business or a product or service. So at the beginning of their user journey or customer journey, they're very much in the awareness stage. They're aware that they are interested in a product or a service, or they've got a need, and they may be aware of your brand as well. So awareness can be used in sort of two ways. Then they actually realize that they actually definitely need to purchase. So they go into the interest stage. And then they go into the consideration stage, which is when they start to actually do their research and they're beginning to learn more about your products and services and more about you. And they may actually go over to your website. And once they go over to the website, you can use that technique, which we often call stalking or remarketing. And that's when somebody has been to your website. So if we all went to John Lewis today and looked at a pair of jeans, you can guarantee we'd see ads everywhere we went for the next few days. It might be in Facebook, it might be in Gumtree, but you'll be remarketed to, which is an advertising method where they basically go after the people that have been to the website because they're more likely to be interested in buying. And then finally, we've also got the conversion stage, which is where you're trying to get the user to convert. And so this is so PPC or Google Ads is often used at this stage, whereas search marketing is often used at this stage because people are looking for information, but actually when they actually get to the point where they're looking for an actual product or an actual brand, they might click on a PPC ad. Now, one of the things which always surprise people is how these different channels are more important in some industries than other. So I've got 3 examples to show you. And the first one is solicitors. And they're what we call a classic lead generation site, because what they want you to do is contact them via a form or by calling them. And what you notice there is that a lot of them have a lot of direct traffic. And this is because a lot of solicitor brands are really well known. You know, people know their local solicitors in their local area. And so they literally type in the name of their local solicitors. And that is then comes through in Google Analytics as direct traffic. Now, the other thing that happens is a lot of people can't quite remember the name. So they will also search for that brand, but they will also, we call that branded traffic, but they will also search for things like family solicitors or commercial lawyers or conveyancing services or something like that. So they get a huge amount of traffic from the search engines. But you'll notice that the others are really, really low. So there's not much paid search going on. And I think for solicitors, this is slightly due to the fact that the cost of buying a click or getting the traffic for solicitors can be very expensive. But you'll also notice there's very little social traffic coming on as well. So they don't have a lot of clicks coming through from LinkedIn or Facebook. And then the other types of traffic like email, referrals from other websites and display advertising are all really, really low, which is quite a surprise. Now, if you compare that with home and garden, which is very dominated by big brands and e-commerce websites like Next, John Lewis, Wayfarers, Dumelm, those sorts of brands, then again, they've got good brand recognition and you'll get in about a third of their traffic, people actually know the names. But what you see here is, of course, there's lots of new businesses or smaller companies that are less well known, and actually paid search is really high. And that's because a lot of these sites are e-commerce and the shopping ads that you get at the top. So, for example, if you were searching for garden furniture, you'd find that there's a load of images at the top of the search results, and they will all be shopping campaigns. And then you might have a few text ads underneath. So you get a huge amount of paid search ads. And if you add those together, you're finding that there's slightly more search results altogether, but search is still well over 70%, well over sort of 60. It's a good 60% in this case. Now, if we look at another example, and this was doors and windows, you can see it's really different again. So it's really useful for you to understand for your specific sector what it looks like, because this will give you an idea of where your competitors are investing their money. And you can get some free data within the SimilarWeb tool, although we've actually got a paid account and we get a little bit more data. So in this case, you can see doors and windows. This is people like Safestyle or Everest, but you've got a lot of local suppliers, like local UPVC, a trader who's going to install windows for me. So in this case, there's not so much direct traffic because it's not dominated by lots of big brands. Again, you'll see there's a lots of organic searches, and this will be a mix of people looking for those local businesses, but also I can't remember what Safestyle's or Everest's website address is, because I don't go and buy windows very often. So I'm going to search for both branded and product phrases when I go into organic. But you'll notice that there's also a very high level of paid search. And that's because there's lots of people, lots of little businesses that are competing, and they will use paid search to be found. So you can see each of these different types of businesses have very different profiles, but in most cases, the most important are direct traffic of people that know those brands or know you. And that's why it's really important to build and develop your brand. And also the organic and the paid search, because when people are actively looking for a business, they go into the search engines, which is why the rest of this presentation is around paid search. So just going to bring Matt in there. Is there anything you wanted to add to that? Because, I mean, this is a pretty common split when we look at most sectors, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, it is. Obviously, it does vary based on lead generation versus e-commerce as well. And I think one of the biggest things is, especially when you start looking at e-commerce websites, you do tend to have a lot more paid traffic brought into the mix, especially with the introduction of Google Shopping to the search style advertising as well. So it's always something to look out for, isn't it?
Yeah, and we do find that I looked at some data yesterday, and when you have got retail, the shopping results are 70 to 80% of the ads. So the text ads in some sectors, there's no text ads at all. So what I thought I'd do quickly now is just to give you an idea of the different types of results that you get found in the search engines. There are a lot more than this, but this is these are the four most important. You do get videos and you do get images as well, but we wanted to focus on these ones because these are the ones that you can influence, and these are the ones that you should probably be focusing on. So first of all, when we come to pay per click, this is what we often call it. This is actually the wrong name. This should be called paid search, because pay per click is the way you pay, and you can get pay per click in things like Facebook and LinkedIn. So really we should be talking about text ads in paid search. And what we're looking here is we're really looking at those little text ads. Now, PLA, we were talking earlier on, weren't we, Matt, that PLA has gone out of fashion, but that stands for product listing ads or paid shopping ads. So we tend to talk about shopping ads and text ads. I think that's probably the most common way of talking about ads. Then we've got the organic or the free listings, which is search engine optimization or SEO. And most people now know what SEO stands for. And then you've got the local results, which are often associated with a map. But this is generated because they've created, or you've created, a free My Business page or business profile, because, as I said, it keeps changing its name. So what I've done here is I've chosen, in this case, something that I knew would trigger the map. So I've got the local results. So this is energy consultancies near me. I've looked at this from B2B perspective, but you could be interested in trying to reduce your energy costs at the moment. And the first results you see are the paid text ads right at the top. And this is unusual because there's only 2, and normally we would expect to see 4. And the reason for that is that the local listings are really dominant and they take up the middle section. And so what sometimes happens is Google will change the proportion of what it shows. So if you haven't got the local listings, it's probably going to have more ads at the top, but you might find that Google is getting Yell and these results here could be paid ads as well. So it can be a bit deceptive. And sometimes there'll be a paid ad in amongst these ones as well. So the paid ones can appear in more than one place. Then finally on the left, you can see that you've got the first SEO result, which is Energy Direct. I can't actually read that. It's a bit too small. I'm sorry. So that gives you the sorts of results that you hear if you're doing a local result and you're looking for a local business. This could be you could just put emergency plumber and it will do this, and it will give you the local results based on where you physically are. So again, if I did this and Matt did this, we would see completely different results because they're geo-targeted based on where we are. We then do a search one. So I've got children's gifts, and you see it looks very different again. So what we've got here is we've got the ads at the top, which is a mix of the shopping results, which go all the way over. There could be as many as 30 or 40 if you click on the click here. You've got 2 ads, and then you go straight into the organic SEO. So in this case, the SEO results are a little bit higher. And then this one, which again is different again, I've gone for travel insurance. In this example, we've got 4 text ads, and then we've got the organic results at the top. And these tend to be the really big brands that appear here because in order to get to the top of the SEO results, it's quite likely that you've got to have a high domain authority or lots of links coming into your site to give you that high position. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to talk about the fold. So this is really the amount of the page that you can see before you have to scroll down. And what you notice immediately is in all of these cases, all you can see is paid ads or the map. So Google is really monetizing the top. And if you want to see anything else, you've got to scroll down. This gets the name from where you used to fold a newspaper and put it in the stand. Now, this is even more apparent on a mobile. So what I've got here is the same search, but for mobile, that's for travel insurance. And you see that all of that lot are ads, and you have to go down quite a long way before you actually get to an organic result. Now, the issue with that is that you could have done loads of work on your SEO. You could be number 1, but your click-through rate, the proportion of people that click on your actual snippet or your ranking can be very low because they've got all these choices before they even find you. So what we find is that by the time you get to the bottom of the first page, and typically that's 10, there's hardly anybody, less than 1%, are actually clicking on your listing. And so if you're not really in the top 5, you're not going to get very much traffic from SEO at all. And that's why so many people do PPC or Google ads or Bing ads, because that means they're more likely to get a result in the top. You're basically paying your way to get to the top. And that's particularly important if you're a brand new site, because a brand new site is going to take a lot longer to get a listing than a site that's been around for a while, that's already built some authority and has got lots of content on its site. So the other thing that this means is that because Google tends to want to show a lot of its own results or its own ads, if you look at the desktop, in a lot of cases, particularly if it's an informational search, very few people, only around 50% of the people actually click and go to your website. And you can see here the proportion of paid people is even less. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, that means it's not worth doing paid. But of course, the paid are at the top, and there's usually so much traffic, you couldn't possibly buy all of it anyway. So what this means is that even if you are number 1, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get any clicks, or you might get a lower proportion than you would expect. Now, if you look at it on mobile, that's even worse. And you've got nearly, over 75% of the people that go to a mobile, they don't click on a website. They might call or they might get the address, but they're not actually clicking through. So you've got to be seen in a heck of a lot of searches to actually get any traffic. And then from then, you know, are you actually going to get the business? So I'm just going to quickly go through the search engine side of this. And the first thing you need to know is there's three aspects of SEO. There's technical, which is really in the realms of the web developer, and you need to get your website right to start with. Otherwise, it's not likely to be fast, it's not likely to be secure, and Google's not going to find the content. Then you've got the on-page, which is the content, the text that you can control. And then the bit that's difficult is the domain authority, the off-page, the amount of time your website's been hanging around, the links, etc. And that's the bit that's really difficult. And that's why we often use PR to try and improve that element. And so basically what will happen if you've got two websites that are very similar technically and got very similar content, it's going to be this domain authority or the well-known brand that's got lots of links to it that's going to appear highest, which is why new websites really struggle to get found. So I've just to repeat what I've just said. Let's bring those across. So really what we try and do is get the basics right first. We make sure that it's fast and it's fully indexed, and that actually there's no hindrances to be found in the search results. Then you make sure you've got the right content, and you do that at the page or the topic level. And then you will also be working on trying to improve the authority of the site. So if you look at how search engines work, there's sort of three elements that are essential for you to get listed at all. And first of all, your site has to be found by the search engine spiders or robots. Now, once your site is found once, then they will come back. So if you've got a new website and you actually check that you're listed, then there's not really going to be any problem. And if you put lots of fresh content like blogging on your site, then they're likely to come back, you know, weekly or whatever. Whereas a new website, a massive website, say Rightmove, that'd be literally being indexed all the time. As more and more data is added, that content is being indexed by or collected by the spiders or the robot. Then it's stored in a massive database, which records all the information, and it's mainly content and textual content and links that are stored. And then there's an algorithm or a matching process to determine which one is most relevant. And there's a couple of hundred factors which we are trying to emulate or improve on your site in order to try and get a higher ranking for that particular key phrase or search term when somebody searches. Now, there's lots of factors, and content marketing is a really important part of SEO. So you can see how these all interact by you bringing up this particular diagram, which shows that when you create content, what you're really trying to do is have content on your website, but also content on other people's website. Now, this could be the page on the product or the service, but we also need to write supporting content, guides and blogs, which help. And then we can then mix it up with a whole load of other channels, which we talked about earlier, to try and help improve that content, and even use paid distribution methods or social media to try and get that content out there so it's distributed to a wider audience, so they can either link back or share your content and get it to that bigger audience. So more and more people will see what it is you're writing. Now, the other thing that we need to be thinking about is why SEO content is important. So first of all, you know, are those pages found? Are they indexed? So does Google have that content actually within your site? And then is the way that the site has been written and the content on the pages and the key phrases, you know, that will help get you ranked. And then what you write in your title and your description, which is what the search engines display, that will help you actually get clicked. It's almost like your SEO ad, because, you know, do they actually bother to click on your snippet or your link? And do they actually go to your site? I'm not going to go through all of these now because these are the sorts of things that you can come back and look at later. But this is an example of some of the things around content that can help you get ranking in the search engines. And the reason is I want to focus on how you optimize a page. So on the left, and you need the slides really to see the detail of this, you can see the different elements on a page. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring an example. And this is for a property website, an estate agent called C21 and Century 21, and they're based in Maidstone. So the search would be something like estate agent Maidstone. And you can see that this is what appeared. So you've got the title, you've got the URL, and then you've got what we call the snippet or the description, and then you've got some links underneath. Now, if you actually click on that link, you go to the page, and this is the actual page, and you can see that there's quite a lot of bits that are similar. You've got the heading, which is the H1 tag, that's called. And then you've got welcome to Century 21. So that's probably the H2. Then you've got the body content. And then you can see here that this is the tab. So that's got the, and there's the URL. So those bits there are actually the same. And you can see that those bits match. So that one there is the same as that. The URL is the same as that. But the H1 and the body content, you can't see that on there. And then this bit here, this is what we call the description. In this case, if you look at the code, because you need to look at the code or the back of the website to see it, you'll notice there isn't a description at all, description, content, and there's nothing there. So this page didn't have a description, which is why we used it as an example. So because there isn't a description which you're controlling and writing yourself, because of course within your WordPress or your CMS or Wix or whatever, you can control this yourselves, Google's grabbed the content off the page. So it's really important, if you want the best image message to be shown here, is that you actually write this and optimize it and include the sorts of key phrases that you want to be found for on the page, in the title, in the heading, so that Google knows that that page is about estate agent in Maidstone, and then you'll get shown for estate agent in Maidstone. So what actually happens then if we carry out an SEO project? And of course, there's loads of webinars on this, which I'm sure Matt can share some of the webinars on how to audit your website, how to measure your traffic using Google Analytics, how to measure the rankings in using a tool like SEO Monitor. So all of those things really get you to grips with the current situation. But then what actually happens in a project is we look at each of those elements one by one. So we do an audit and understand what the status of the technical status of the website is. We go and do key phrase research and see whether the content on the page has been optimized properly. We go and check the links and do PR to see if we can build the authority of the website. We do content marketing on an ongoing basis to add additional content to the website, like blogs, but also so make sure that you have got content on other people's websites. We look at your Google profile and do localized SEO to see whether we can improve your positions in the map, which I'll show you next. So these are two examples from Century 21. And you can see that there's a really bad example on the left and a really good example on the right. So the Birmingham one isn't doing so well. It's got pretty poor reviews. There's no reviews underneath it, and there's no sort of questions and answers. There's quite a lot of information missing. So that one could definitely be improved. And so what happens is we need to undertake what's, we don't even know if this is owned by anybody. It looks like nobody's claimed that one. And so it looks like we need to do what we call a local SEO project. And this is a couple of years ago. So I know that Century 21 would have fixed this by now, but it was useful to have an old example to show you what it could look like when it has before it's fixed. And you can see that what we do when we develop a Google business profile is, and do local SEO, we need to make sure that the information matches what's on your website. So it needs to match, but it also needs to match all the other directories and all the other places where it appears, so that there's consistency in what we call the name, address, and phone number, or the NAP. So what we try and do is we encourage people to give you reviews, and we ideally want them both in Google, but also in third-party reviews as well. But we also want to try and get what we call citations or mentions or links in local directories, because these are used as something that's trusted in order to help improve your local results. So that's definitely something that you guys can go and check and look at today. So I know we're running a little bit low on time. So let's see if in the last 10 minutes we can just cover paid. So first of all, I wanted to give you some indication of what happened as a result of COVID with the amount of advertising in the UK. So this is the growth of digital advertising in the UK. And you can see in 20, actually, there was a slight increase. This happened just around, this happened in January and February and around Christmas, where we got quite a big jump, but the rest of the year actually dropped significantly. But come to 21, where we got the full results, we've actually seen a 30% increase in digital advertising. And this was the e-commerce boom that happened last year, and how, you know, we significantly carried on marketing our websites. Now, if you split these figures, and this is 21 as well, you can see that about 50%, just under 50%, is due to search ads, and that's nearly all Google. And then the red is video, and the blue is banner ads, and this is nearly all paid social. So it's not split out specifically, it's done by the type of advertising, the format. And then the little black one is things like Auto Trader and eBay ads and Gumtree, that sort of thing. So you can see just how much that increased last year. Now, if we look at the data for advertising in the UK altogether, in 2021, the UK spent 31 billion on advertising, and that was up 34%. But the important thing is that the UK digital advertising increased by 41%, because actually some of the traditional methods like TV and cinema, particularly, and print. TV actually was quite buoyant because a lot of TV is now watched online, but cinema and print went down, or leveled off and went down. So actually digital went up by 41% and is now 74% of all UK advertising. So I don't know why we talk about digital and traditional anymore. We should just talk about marketing and advertising, because now it's, you know, predominantly digital and not traditional as it was when I started 20 years ago. It was only 1%. So it's sort of, you know, been growing exponentially ever since. Now, paid search is 49% of digital, and display, which includes social, was 41% of digital. And then you've got a big chunk of video in there as well, which has been a big driver. So, you know, smartphones and video have been massive drivers in this growth from around 2015. Now, let's quickly do an introduction to paid search. So unfortunately, I had a bit of a video running on the right, so that's not working, showing what it looks like in mobile. But paid search ads, as I've shown you already, appear at the top, and these are our text ads. Whereas in previous examples where you've got e-commerce, you usually have shopping, and they either appear at the top and go all the way across, or sometimes you get them on the right-hand side. Now, they've got lots and lots of features, and you can see you've got things like stars, you've got links here, you've got telephone numbers, we've now got images. But you know that they're ads because it's got the ad sign next to them, and generally there's 4 at the top. And this was a little video which you unfortunately can't see in the PDF. Now, PPC is not the same as paid search. I just want to clarify that. Paid search is search engine advertising. PPC is the method by which you pay per click. And that's the biggest difference between the two. But in the case of paid search, what happens is the searcher types in a keyword, and that triggers a whole load of different types of ads. Now, it looks like it's just shopping ads and text ads, but even behind the scenes, there's different types of ads as well. And also you can go into YouTube and put a search phrase in, and that will trigger ads as well. But we tend to think of YouTube more as a sort of almost like a social or display advertising, but there is a search engine element to it. The key to it is that you need to go into an ads management platform like Google or Bing to set the ads up. And the great thing about it is you only pay when somebody actually clicks on your ad, not when the ad is seen, which is really different for display advertising and also social advertising. So traditionally what would happen is the advertiser would select a whole trunch, could be hundreds, could be thousands of key phrases, and they would be the key phrases that they think their target audience is likely to be searching for. That's no longer the case because there's now another load of ads like the shopping ads, but also something called dynamic search ads, which is almost like paid SEO. So what's happening now is that the ads are triggered by the content on the web page. So if you watch one of my other webinars, I think that PPC and SEO is beginning to merge. And if you get the website right and you do your SEO right, that can also help your PPC. So I'm going to bring in Matt now because I'm going to get him to explain the different types of campaigns. So I'll just finish a couple of slides and then he can just talk about those. We are running slightly short of time, Matt, which is quite typical for me. But the main advantage of paid search is there's just millions and millions of searches. So there's always going to be an opportunity to be found, particularly if you want to be found for quite niche terms, which can often be sort of 10 to 30p. Whereas if you want to go for something like travel or holiday, you might be paying £1 a click. And then if it's something like solicitors or digital marketing, you're talking about £5 to £20 a click. So the cost per click usually relates to how competitive it is because it's like an auction. I won't go through the process of setting this up, but because I've sort of described it, but this is really what we just talked about. Somebody searches for a keyword and basically your ads enters this auction next to the other competitors. And if they decide to click on yours, they might even click on all of them, you will then pay a cost per click, which can vary considerably, but generally depends on how much you can afford to spend. We use it when we want to get more sales. That's the key thing. And we tend to use it if we want more branding, but we tend to mainly use it if we want those sales, if we want the conversion. And we can turn it on and off. So it's really quick to set up and it allows us to manage our budget. And if we've got no stock left, we can turn it off. But you don't want to use it if your product is really low value because you won't make enough money. Because you only make 1 to 5% conversions, if you're paying 10 pence a click, that means it's going to cost you £10, 1% to get a sale. So it's really important that you make enough money. So generally, if you're selling something for less than 40, to make enough money to just using cost per click. But if you've got a brand new website, it might be the only way you can get traffic to your website. So it's a bit of a balancing act of deciding whether it's more important to get traffic and some sales rather than worrying about the return that you're going to make. The main difference between the two is cost, position, time, and who actually sees your ad. Of course, with all SEO, you're not paying for the ads, but you are paying for the time to develop the SEO. The position of your ad or your rankings will be very different. And of course, PPC gets priority. The time it takes to achieve the results, as just said, Matt and I could literally set up a text campaign now and have it live in half an hour. It's not as quick to set up shopping because we have to go through an approval process and we have to set up things like a merchant center. So that's more time consuming. And then who actually sees your ad, because you can control that using PPC or paid search, because of course you can geo-target it or you can use remarketing so the people that have been to your site before can see it again. I won't go through all the lingo here. This is for you to look up later because I just want to go through and just get Matt to explain the different types of campaigns that you can set up.
Absolutely, not a problem.
Questions.
Yeah, so we've had quite a good chat today, Anne, actually. It's been quite interesting. We've had a few fun topics. But yeah, essentially the different campaign types, or the main campaign types that you'd use for Google advertising. And you can also use a majority of these on Microsoft advertising as well. So we've got search. So first and foremost, it delivers a text ad. So Anne's already shown quite a few examples of these earlier in the presentation. But essentially, it's relevant for pretty much all businesses. There's a few outliers, a few like sensitive topics that Google doesn't allow you to use, but it's mainly for driving traffic and generating sales. We've then got Google Shopping, which again, Anne has shown you some examples, but this is the product style ads. So they come with a little picture. And again, they're relevant for businesses, but entirely e-commerce businesses. So you have to be selling your products directly online to some sort of consumer. And these, again, are used mainly to drive traffic and sales. And then we've got the Google Display Network, or the GDN. And these deliver image or banner format ads. So you'll likely all have seen these at some point. I mean, maybe whether you realize it or not, but you'll be browsing some sort of website across the internet, and often you'll have been looking at products earlier in the day, maybe, and then you'll see an ad for those same products in some sort of image format. And again, these are to generate more interest in those products or services. And they drive awareness. They sort of build your understanding of that brand, and they also drive traffic. And then finally, we've got video. We have talked about this in the chat quite a bit today, actually, video ads, and the best way to run them. I mentioned that it's quite important to think about these as on a cost per view basis. You're trying to generate more views and build awareness for your brand. And that's how we generally recommend using those.
I am aware that we have gone past 10 o'clock. I thought this was going to be difficult to squeeze in, but Matt, did you just want to explain the hierarchy? And then for anybody that can stay around, I'll just show some examples of some key phrase research tools that you can use as well. But Matt, do you just want to take us through the text campaign structure? Yeah,
of course. So essentially, with a campaign set up in Google Ads or Microsoft Ads, you would have your account. So in this instance, we've used ourselves as the example, Annika Digital. And then your campaign would be an overarching topic. So you would group together all the different parts of a certain topic. So in this example, we've got PPC as one topic or campaign, and then SEO as another topic or campaign. Quite often, you would use your own website to help guide the structure of a Google Ads setup. So your main navigation on your website is likely to correlate with your campaigns. You'd then, at ad group level, have the different subcategories of that main category. So in this instance, again, under PPC, we've got PPC agency and we've got PPC training. And then within those ad groups, you would have your keywords and your ads. So your keywords would all need to relate to the ad group that they sit within. So by that, I mean, in the PPC agency ad group, you would have PPC agency as a keyword, but you might also have PPC company because it's quite a closely related phrase as well. Realistically, the reason you group these together into the same ad group is that you would then ensure that your ad or your ad copy closely relates to that keyword as well. Because if someone searches for PPC agency, they expect to see an advert that relates to PPC agency or PPC company in some way. If you saw an ad for PPC training when you'd searched for PPC agency, you'd think that wasn't quite right. You'd not quite have an understanding of what that company's showing that advert for.
And then, of course, the ad then determines the landing page. So in the same light that you want to see the same ad, you want it to the right landing page.
I think that's been an annoyance for people for years, and it's why we have a lot of our work, isn't it, Anne? Because we could definitely get that right when historically it's always been so annoying clicking on an advert for a search for one thing and it's sending you to a landing page that talks about something entirely different.
The other thing I wanted to mention when I was looking at this, I didn't have time to redraw it, but you could draw this completely differently because you could also have PPC training as a campaign. or training as a campaign, and then PPC training, SEO training as a separate ad group. So that, you know, you can do it in different ways. You can slice, it's like a pack of cards, you can slice it and dice it in different ways. So there's not always a right answer. Sometimes there's a slightly different answer to each of these different solutions. What I wanted to do just before we finish, because I know a lot of you will need to go, is I thought we'd just show you a couple of tools for key phrase research. The first one I've brought up is Trends, which is Google Trends. So this is just quite useful for you. And this is on the energy one as well. We were doing some training around this. Home car charger, EV charger, install car charger, install EV charger. And you can see that EV charger, how much that's grown, and particularly over the last sort of since November, or since the winter last year, and how much in demand that one is. And then we've got, so you can put in 5 key phrases using Trends, but you can change the time period and you can change the location. So it's quite useful just to sort of understand historical differences and seasonality. And then another favorite tool of both myself and Matt, although you only get 5 goes if you're not logged in, you haven't got a paid account, is topics.seo monitor. So in this one, this is also really useful if you want to know how well you're doing. So I put in EV charger. There's 70 keywords in this topic. The search volume is just under 60,000, and then you can see the trends again. And that's down 99%. I think that was just that the data was missing on that day. I wouldn't believe that, because normally there's a bar there.
Yeah, that's rather dramatic, isn't it? 99%.
That was definitely a cock up. And then the cost per click we'd expect, and then it actually tells you who the main competitors are, who've got the highest visibility score. And I've chosen some of the smaller ones here to display. So EV chargers 3.7, Eon Energy were 2.36. And then if you then go on to the next slide, you can see that if you scroll down on this page, you can actually see the individual key phrases, the relevancy, the search volume, the type of search result, the year-on-year change, the cost per click, and what position you versus your competitors have got. So if you haven't got any paid tools, this is a really good tool for just getting an idea of what you might need to pay for if you had to bid on it, but also where you're doing in an SEO. So it's a very good tool to cover both.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say it's one of the better free tools that I've used as well, Anne.
Yeah, absolutely. Now the data is actually coming from Google Keyword Planner, but you've got to have an AdWord account or Google Ads account to set this up. And you can see, although you get volumes and you get lots of ideas, you don't really get that extra insight of the actual rankings and also what your competitors are doing. So although the data comes from here, and if you've got a Google Ads account and you're setting up Google Ads, you would use this. If you haven't currently got an ads account, or you want to use it for both SEO and PPC, it's a brilliant tool to start. I think that's our last slide. So I don't know if there's any more questions. It sounds like you've had a good chat answering lots of questions. Absolutely. Yes, SEMrush is a good tool as well, but I think in lots of cases you have to pay.
Yeah, I think there is a basic free version, but I think from having looked at it before, every time you seem to click on anything else, it says, "Have you paid yet?"
So what we're going to do then is I'm just going to bring up if for anybody that's still left in the room, if you possibly could leave us a review. We've not been doing quite as many. Well, I know that this needs updating because we're well over 200. But if you like what you heard today, if you'd like to give us a review, that would be amazing. And I think we've got one for Google reviews. And apart from that, I think that's everything for today. So unless there's any more questions, we'll get the video out to you in a couple of hours.
Yeah, it's been good, Anne. Thanks a lot. And thanks everybody for joining us this morning.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.